Okay, let me just flip through a couple of these very quickly because these are more about funding, and I think that some of the issues are about programs. So let me just, that basically, as we go into next legislative session, there are a series of elements that, as far as how the education community typically approaches a legislative session, some of these are good and some of these are bad. First of all, it's a fair share of increased revenue. We think, because we always think about a legislative session as having increased revenue. They don't. They don't have increased revenue as we look at next legislative session. And so basically what I wanted to say is this typical approach as we go through is unlikely to work in the next legislative session. And so we have to be much more concentrated about what it is that we're asking for money for and what it is the positive effects of that are going to be. Go ahead. Keep going. We'll come back to that if we need to. Just briefly, the legislature and the governor and others believe that they've significantly reduced property taxes, that we have an equitable school finance system, that there are adequate funds available to meet standards, and that the state has met its obligation for its constitutional obligations. In fact, when you look at some of the data, property tax revenues are now more than 50% of, sorry for this slide there, but are down to about 44% of state money is down to about 44% of total revenue. The lion's share of the revenue is coming from local property taxes, not from the state. Go ahead. They think we have an equitable school finance system, but if you had an equitable school finance system, all those dots would be on the same line. So I think we have a bit of a problem yet in the equity of our system. Go ahead. I just wanted to talk about dropouts for a moment before we close out on that. Texas A&M has done a recent study that we'll be glad to provide you that talks about the economic costs and benefits of reducing the dropout rate, essentially saying that we are losing some $5 billion a year, $5 to $9 billion in terms of loss of earned income to dropouts out of our system, that if we did not have dropouts, we would be able to decrease welfare costs, decrease incarceration and crime costs, all at a relatively small cost of educating additional dropouts if we just had the settings to bring them into school. And if there's a place where I believe we need to focus our attention over the next several years in education funding, is to try to make sure that we do so in such a way that we have a serious reduction in dropout rates. Now, that being said, it's certainly not an easy proposition to reduce dropout rates. We're going to need innovation, we're going to need technology, we're going to need different kinds of standards, but I believe the job can be done if we put enough attention and focus on that particular element. Keep on going and keep on going. Just a word about, since you are going to the Capitol today, about what the members of the legislature are facing. When they funded public education for the current biennium, they used $3.6 billion of federal funds that are going to go away. And then they said, oh, well, that was for one-time purposes. No, it wasn't. It was $3.6 billion to operate schools. The first priority that we have in school finance in the next legislative session is they have to replace $3.6 billion with general revenue monies of the state, or else public education is going to suffer. That we're going to need to be looking at the structural. We're also going to be looking at the structural deficit within the state budget. Overall, The only way the state is going to get out of a major financial hole is either to decrease expenditures, which I do not believe in, or increase revenues. The state needs to actively consider additional revenue sources for general operations across the board, or else no matter what program we're talking about, public education or CHIP or any other program, those programs are going to suffer, because what the state did when they funded that big property tax reduction in 2006 is they underfunded it, and significantly underfunded it in terms of the long range. Go ahead. So back to the Constitution, where are we? Well, in general diffusion of knowledge, we have a long way to go, but on the other hand, we are, by national measures, up about the state average in terms of that. In the efficient system, the equitable system, we're in danger of slipping back into the morass on that we came out of 20 years ago. And on no statewide property tax, we're very close to having a statewide property tax again.